All right, good morning, traders. TG Watkins here. It is April 10th, Wednesday, when I'm recording this. Hope everyone's doing well out there. And we are seeing a big market down on the CPI reaction. Looks like I might need to actually reload the Moxie room. Yeah, our audio is garbled, I thought. So let me see about resetting that room, and then we can dive back into this. For those of you on Facebook, YouTube, and X, just hopefully make sure everything is good over there. All right, then let's see. How is this looking over in the Moxie room? Everything good? Is the audio back and the screen should be back? And for those of you again, yeah, much better. Great. Thanks, Omar. And then for those of you on Facebook and YouTube and all that, just remember we are always running a $7 special for 30 days if you guys want to come check out the Moxie room and what I'm up to. All right, so let's dive into this for a while because we really do have quite a bit going on. We've got the CPI report came out and it was hot. And I think most people were kind of expecting that because we've been seeing kind of the month to month being neutral to up. And here, the year over year is really what people are talking about, that 3.8. 3.8 is what we're actually getting. Consensus with 3.7. I heard stuff, people are thinking 3.6 as well. And so it came out at 3.8. So yeah, a little bit hotter than they were expecting. It was just a guess, and of course, a little bit high. And you can see here we have the inflation rate year over year. This one also was up higher and up higher than the previous and up higher than the consensus. So all of this is what is sparking the market move today. But we've also been seeing this warming up for the last, I've been at this point now a month that I've been talking about this, kind of looking for the market to tire out and start to move back. And then, a couple weeks that I was looking for something to happen, but it never did. And then really last Thursday was the key moment. Let me zoom in here. Yeah, last Thursday right there is that big candle. And that is where we punctured the daily 21. So yeah, brighter side. How's your shorting game going now? Now it should be a little bit better. Do you see how you were kind of a maybe a little ahead of the curve, so to speak, because we are actually seeing this thing start to curve back over, but a little ahead of the curve all the way up and through here. We had been talking about it, and we were saying, hey, we're getting a little bit cautious up in this area, but it still kept pushing for a little bit longer. And then we got another move from the FOMC, and then that finally started to tucker out. And when this move happened, when we got that breakdown below the daily 21, I said, I think that's it. That's what we've been looking for. It didn't happen here, and it didn't happen right there. With the previous day, it took Thursday for that to actually happen. And so, yeah, at that point, I do think that that is where we now have a character shift on this. The other thing that we can clearly see is that we are getting rejected on the hourly chart. So we are making lower highs, and this is becoming now very obvious and apparent. I've been doing pretty well talking to the Moxie traders in the Moxie room, saying, "Hey, any moves to the upside, don't trust them, don't believe them," and that has been working out very nicely so far. And in fact, based on this move that we even got here, I posted another thing saying, "Hey, quick little day trade to the upside, but otherwise, don't be trusting it." And I would be expecting things to continue to move down. And sure enough, I think an hour after I posted that in the room, boom, got that move down in the morning. But the other thing that we need to keep in mind is that while this market is moving lower, it's still not the greatest trend lower yet. And so that's why we get a down move and then an up move and then a down move and an up move. So it's all over the place, mostly because this thing is still just chopping around as it works its way lower. There is a lot of volatility up in this area. So, if you guys are going to be trading long or short, probably keep your time frame much smaller and see if you can work with that, or just start pulling back, go to cash, and do what you need to do to protect yourself. But yeah, this market is kind of all over the place. And as far as today, we opened with a gap down. It wasn't looking, I guess it would look pretty bad on the market because the market actually closed up here and it opened up down here. Yeah, that looks pretty bad. But I guess if you kind of come from here to here, that's not as bad. And really, there's kind of a gap this morning. It's sitting on potential support, And so we got a little bit of a drift up, even though the gap was down and the internals are negative. And welcome to the market. You're like, how does this thing go up if everything is going, if the internals are going down? Well, it's just what happens sometimes. And I would say that was price coming back into to fill the gap and coming into resistance. It wants to come back there, kind of um, tag up from home base and then go. So at this point, as I said, expect chop. I do think we are going to go sideways to down over the course of time. And I don't know how long this is going to last or how far it's going to go. I've got some ideas, but you can see we keep running into previous areas of support. And so it's just going to be real choppy in through here. So we'll get into that. And then we are also seeing the VIX and volatility move up. We're starting to see this actually work. And now you can see here, we are elevated. We are now consistently higher than what we have been at before. So this is all really just confirming what we've been looking for the last few weeks. I do believe it's finally here, and we are starting to see things move down. There are some pockets of strength, of course there are, and precious metals have been one of those areas, but I'm still very cautious up here. Like, yes, they are up. I mean, even look at silver today. It got a gap down, ran back up, but now right back down here. So it too is running into a little bit of headwinds, partly because it has had such a big move. It is way up here outside of that 30 ATR and off the moving averages on that daily chart. So yeah, just got to be careful with things. And we've been taking some stuff off. I'm happy that we took even more positions off yesterday. They were just kind of meandering along, and with the market also meandering along, and then CPI, it's like, let's start protecting ourselves, start pulling some stuff off, and that was a really, really great decision. So let's see, brighter side, NNDM, looking for a short? You're looking for a short on this one. Well, let's see. I'm not so sure that looks like the greatest short to me. Number one, it's range. I mean, let's just see what this range is. It's got a decent range, I suppose, just because it is such a cheap stock. So you can see low to high, 40%. Okay. But this doesn't look too terrible to me. In fact, look, you're okay, good. You're looking for a long. That makes me feel a little bit better. Nice. We were talking about the short side, and so I thought you were talking about that. Okay, that's much better to hear, because I was like, this is actually looking pretty good for a long. I would just have to be patient for this. But yeah, this looks pretty good, because it's come up here. Of course, it's run into its upper band of resistance, and then you can see it's starting to come back down into some support here. So, yeah, I would definitely say keep an eye on that one. And if we look here, yeah, thank goodness you're not looking short. Yeah, Nick, the short would have been up here where you're starting to get those Moxie price triggers and the pullback to the daily 50. That would have been the short. And actually, this is a pretty good example. And some of the stuff that I was talking to the Moxie traders yesterday about is, this market is still pretty good. We need to be patient. We got to let the market do its thing right now. It's got to tone itself down. It's got to rework itself. But when you look at names like this, after they've had a pretty big move like that, this is a very constructive pullback into potential support. Like, it's not confirmed yet, but that's pretty decent. And so I would be looking around for names that actually look like this, that they've had nice moves, and then they start to work their way back, totally perfectly normal, just like what we should be expecting the S&P to be doing over the next probably few weeks. And then if they can find some support and actually start to move back up, then somewhere in there is going to be a great move and great opportunity for us to get into. Again, not confirmed here yet, but I like seeing that kind of stuff. We were talking about crowd. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. We were talking about crowd also. We were trying to trade this one, see if it was going to go up a little bit right there as price was holding the hourly 50. As soon as it broke, we got out, so very small loss. And coming in through here, you can see now we are starting to really kind of wear out. So great. Hey, we took a trade, took a try, very small, figured out wasn't going to work. Market started to shift. Tech was starting to get hit at that point. So cool. We got out of all of our tech type names. And now we let these things go and let them just start coming down, finding better support, and finding areas that we're going to want to potentially pick them up. But just like NNDM, we want to see if this is kind of a nice constructive thing, come down here gently into support, and then maybe we can see if it comes up like that. We don't know if it's going to drop hard or if it's really just going to go sideways and wait for those moving averages, but it would be nice to see them like even like this nice kind of slow, consistent walk down into support, nothing too abrupt and nothing that says, oh, there's a problem here. And if we can do that over the next few weeks, then we can start watching these and seeing if there's opportunity for that. Let's see, Chewy. Now I know that one's down on the ground here. Yeah. Now we actually took a really great series of trades back in the day. Right there, you see my marks. We had some really good moves in through that. In fact, I always want to say we probably got in around here, and I think we up there. Yeah, it was like a solid 20%. I'll confirm that when I get down to the lower thing. But yeah, we were playing that off of the nice double bottom right in through there. And we could see, I knew that this was not going to be the long-term trade. Why? Well, because you still had the 8 below the 21 on the weekly chart. It wasn't ready. Now, potentially, and I'm still going to say very potentially because this has been pretty rough. Yeah, it's not gone down anymore. It's really just built this base, but now we actually have to see if this thing can actually go up at some point. So just keep in mind that even though they don't go down, doesn't mean that they have to go up. And yeah, I see what you're saying, see what's going on here. But personally, for this one, I'd probably want to wait a little bit longer. Like it's warming up. There's still a bit of a gap here on the hourly chart, just like there was a gap here. So a gap there, let it pull back a little bit. And then we have to really figure out if this is going to be the real move. Because you could see the last time that had a kind of a similar setup wasn't apparently the right time. Will this time be the right time when it sets up? We don't know that either. So just be, I just be careful with something like this because they're kind of on their floor for a reason. I was trying to think. Petco, was it Petco, PetSmart? Um, if you guys, is this one it? If you guys want to help me out with the Pet Med, I'm trying to think of maybe it's like Bark or something like that. I'm trying to think of the name. Maybe you guys can look at it while I'm poking around over here. But it wasn't doing well either. It just kind of kept going and down like this. And so that's what I mean is if we just use this as an example, maybe even for Chewy, just keep in mind that there are times where it looks like it wants to go up and then it just won't. And maybe it looks like it want to go up again and it just won't. And so they just kind of tease you the whole time as these things go down. They pump up and fall down, bump up and fall down, bump up and fall down. And that's why with things like Chewy, there's a reason why it's kind of on the lows. Yeah, Brady said thanks. Woof. That's what it was. See, I was close. I said bark. Yeah. See, this kind of stuff. We were looking around at this a while ago and trying to figure out if there, a little bit of a move there. Okay, is that one going to work? Is that one going to work? And it could be the same thing for Chewy. They just kind of tease you along, and then they just never quite work. So even at this one, looked like that was going to be a double bottom, had a bit of a move up. They were really just bounces in downtrends, and then they continue to roll over, just like the dogs that would be in these places. How'd you like that segue? All right, so let's see if we can go find some better areas. Now, you're talking about USO, and yes, this is a better area, but I'm also kind of wondering when the next pullback on this one is going to be. Because if we look at USO, yep, it's definitely breaking out. I really like this. We have been trading the oil sector. We've got a couple of names in there. And you can see here, it is breaking out from that trend line. All that is good, but it is also running into a double top, and it's also kind of extended. So I just kind of look at this and say it has been a really good trend and trade so far. And maybe we need to be prepared for looking for the next best opportunity, and not try to play it up here. This seems like it's at an area where I would be more inclined to wait for a pullback and a fresher, cheaper entry than to try and trade it from here. And I think XOP, yeah, XOP is kind of doing the same thing. Great move. Very, very solid move. But at some point, it's not going to want to be up there the whole time. And it might kind of be in that area. Perhaps if we look sideways, you can see also there, it could be running into some resistance in that area. Yeah, brighter side, that would be the first thing is I would look at the 21 EMA on XOP or even XLE, any of those names first. And you can see here, there is where it came to the 21. But keep in mind, just because you get a setup somewhere on one time frame doesn't mean that that's going to last forever into the future. It means it's just good for that moment. So you can see back here, that test of the 21 was pretty great because that was in the beginning of the move and the setup. But then you can see this test of the 21, yes, it worked, but then you can also see that pretty shortly after it did move down, and that's because, well, it was at the end of its move. This was a big move. It was pretty sizable. And so same thing here. You can get these little spurts and aftershocks and still a little bit of residual movement and momentum. So you can come down to the 21, try, and you can either double top or maybe you go a little bit higher, and then you can still roll over later because, well, that's the process of it needing to find greater support, which might be the daily 50. Okay, and then let me just show you from the Moxie indicator standpoint, I'm starting to see this double top right in through here, even though price is significantly higher. It doesn't look bad, but what it's telling you is the Moxie indicator is telling you that that no more energy, no new energy is coming into this. That price is going higher on the same amount of energy, so it's basically coasting, and it is a form of negative divergence because, well, you want energy and momentum to be growing and gaining with it. And then when you start seeing those negative divergences, that's a problem. Let me show you RSI. This is the one that we traded and we just got out of it because it was kind of looking the same thing. We had a pretty good trade, pretty good move with it. We got into it. Our first try was right there because I wanted to see if we could hold that hourly 50. And then we got out just super quick. Let me really zoom in on this. Yeah, we got out right there, maybe 1 or 2% down because it just didn't do what I wanted it to do. But then you wait a little bit longer and, oh, look, now it's set up. And that's where we got back in. And then we were able to ride this one up for about 16 or 18%, something like that. And what I was noticing is number one, just like XOP and USO, that double top, right? Look right in through here, double top of that RSI. And then you could also see right here, price up. And Mox indicator is moving higher, but I would kind of still chalk this up to that same situation where you're getting the Mox indicator level compared to price going up, and that is a form of negative divergence. What I really saw it show up was the lack of amplitude on the 15-minute Mox indicator. So like what you're asking yourself and what the Mox indicator is trying to communicate to you is look how low these things are, but look how well price is moving up. Why is there a disconnect like that? If things were going to be doing pretty well, you want to see the Moxie indicator up here and up here. That's energy. But instead, this thing is just kind of crawling along with very minimal energy, even on the 15-minute time frame. And so we decided to get out yesterday, and I think that was a good decision because you can see it's pulling back today. I think it does have more room to go, probably down to the 21 at least. And we'll have to kind of reassess from there. All right, so let's kind of go back over to the SPY and let's look at the lower time frames real quick because I do want to show you that for day traders, there's quite a bit going on over here. So remember, gap down, maybe surprising to some that the market actually moved up since the internals were down and bad CPI news and all that stuff, but that's just how things happen. And what this did is it went from being oversold back up to, call it, support in the short side of things, because really it just ran back up to resistance, and that's what it wanted. It came back up to here, back up to here, and look, it came all the way up to the 30 ATR on the 2-minute. And then it started to roll over, and I think that makes a lot of sense because it was running into a downtrending 2-minute 50 and a downtrending 5-minute 50 with the 8 below the 21 the whole time and right here into the 21. So really think about this if it was an uptrend. If you were in an uptrend, this would be a gap up that came down to test support and then wanted to keep going. Just flip it upside down. This was a gap down that needed to bounce into resistance and keep going. Okay. So if that kind of helps a little bit for anybody else who maybe is new to day trading and being like, why is the market moving up when the internals and everything else are so down? Well, stuff like that. And yeah, I do think we are in the process of moving lower. How smoothly or how bumpy or anything, that we never know. But generally speaking, I would expect this thing to keep moving down. I want to see it break that trend line. I want to see it break the daily 50. And most likely, I think it's going to go lower. That's the kind of stuff that we've been talking about in the Moxie room. So if you guys want some short sale targets or areas to think about, hey, how do I know when to start buying this dip? Well, that's all the stuff that we go and talk about in the Moxie room and really dive deep with it. Okay. Yeah, brighter side, nice. So you've been turning charts upside down. I think that helps too because my eyes are pretty well calibrated to read long. So I look at this and say, okay, how does this look to the upside? And that is how I start to figure out if I want to trade something short, is if it looks good as a long upside down. So yeah, great tips for anybody else who's out there and didn't know about that. Turn your charts upside down. All right, everyone. Well, thanks again. And remember, come over here to simplertrading.com. You can also check out X over here and see what I'm up to. Make sure I'm posting a few things, getting a little meta right here. And then you can see I've been posting this and saying, yeah, hey, I think this is really starting to work. And, just be careful on the short side. All right, guys. Thanks again for your time. And I'll see you next week. Take care.